is Reg Athwal and welcome to another one of our episodes for book videos. This is the one for today, Brand Child, okay? This book was published back in 2003. Can you imagine, from this author, Martin Lindstrom, 2003, 17 years ago. I was 30 years of age, 47 at the moment, and I just put down a few facts here thinking about 2003. Let me put this into context. This book is all about, it says, remarkable insights into the minds of today's global kids and their relationships with brands. Let's go back. 2003, how old were you? What were you doing around that time? Can you remember? For those of you who have children and they're a little bit older now, you've got adults. How old were your kids around that time? And I was thinking, I've got 4 children. My youngest at that time was 1 year of age. He was a year old. Today he's an 18-year-old adult. And to think the last 17 years, how did we impact him? How did society impact him? How did he end up deciding what brands to get into? And what influenced him? And I'm looking back thinking, wow, Instagram launched on October the 6th, 2010. 7 years after this book came out. And on day one, it had 25,000 users. And it's grown to over 1 billion users that use it on a regular basis. And who would think then TikTok, owned by ByteDance in China, launched only on 2nd of August 2018. August 2018, we're talking 2 years ago. It has 800 million users. Facebook launched on February 2004, a year after this book was published, and now has $70 billion in revenue. Why do I share some of this information? This book is packed, 321 pages, and I wanted to grab a couple of things. If you haven't heard of this author, Martin Lindstrom, he's also the author of Clicks, Bricks and Brands. There's another one I'm going to bring up, my book videos in the future, called Brand Building on the Internet. Just to go back and reread some of these books in my library and then think about where we are today in 2020. Really puts things into perspective. So we're going to kick off, and I've got about 3-4 things I want to share from this book today. It says, is information overload when you load information? Question mark. Do you remember the term information overload? To some extent, we've all fallen victim to this over the past decade. And he's talking 2003. Okay, 1993 to 2003 is the decade he's talking about. Well, the term is dead. The so-called overload happened because at the time we hadn't yet developed the mechanisms required to handle the huge amount of information daily bombarding our senses. Compare it to food shopping. Over the past 25 years, supermarkets have continued to develop. They start out as small kiosks, then small stores, then shopping markets. Then supermarkets became mega markets, becoming shopping centres. Now let me pause here. At the time that this was published, it doesn't talk about Amazon. It doesn't talk about what's happening with online shopping. Okay, this is fascinating when you look back at history and some of the predictions that people made. And he gets into it in the last chapter of the book where he starts to talk about online shopping and where it's going. But around this time, there was nothing mentioned about Amazon and any of these e-commerce giants. He says here, ultimately, we've all changed to cope with the dramatic increase of brands, despite the fact that we've had no training in dealing with exposure to the explosion of items on the supermarket shelf and now online shelf. But the difference between our generation and the tweens, this is all about the tweens at that time, who are now essentially adults. Because between our generation and the tweens is that they have grown up in a world of information overload. They know nothing else. Wow. So if you take now the current tweens in the world in 2020, This is the generation almost before they grew up with information overload. So the next generation after, we're talking alpha generation now, what's happening in their heads? How do they see brands? How do they decide what brands to be loyal to? How do they decide to buy things? So again, I'm just going to go, it says here, I am very loyal to a brand as long as I am not the only one wearing it. Interesting. This devotion to brand should reflect a high brand loyalty, but this is no longer the case. In fact, the opposite holds true. Loyalty is first created among the group, and there's a whole section here where he talks about the tribe. Among the group, which then identifies with a particular brand. This means that if one or several people in the group shifts brands, usually the result of observing other tweens or fashion magazines or something on television, and today, again, I've already mentioned it's not about the television, it's because they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, prior to that, Facebook. And none of those things were mentioned in this book because Facebook launched 1 year after this book was published. It's just crazy thinking back. 17 years ago, this gentleman's talking about branding and how it impacts tweens. So in those days, it was about fashion magazines, television, and it's talking about these tribes where if a group of tweens shift, then they all shift. Do you think that's true today? I'd love to get your comments below. Give me your thoughts about how has it changed now with this current generation of tweens? What's happening now that they are using things like TikTok? Imagine 800 million users. Tweens dream for sale. It says, I don't want to leave without my teddy. There's a lovely little model in this book, page 26. It says, a careful study will reveal that there are 6 distinct characteristics that go to make up the most successful brands, especially around with toys worldwide. What we find is a recipe incorporating the right measure of fear, fantasy, mastery, humor, love, and stability. Okay, I'll just go around again. You've got humor, fear, mastery, fantasy, love, stability. Okay, there's the model if you can see it. Okay, very interesting. And it goes into a whole section, a whole chapter on this book, breaking each one of those down. And why is this relevant? I think what really got me going rereading this book, and it's great going back to some of my old books in my library, is I'm just thinking about my future customers, your future customers are not even born. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet. And over the next 10, 15 years, there's going to be another 1 billion people. At least, your future customers. So, and we work with family businesses around the world, and I was thinking, well, we do a lot for the senior members of our family business clients. We do a lot with the next generation, which are typically, most of them would be around 25 to 35. But how much time are we spending with the teenagers? What are we doing for the under 13s right now? And what could we do to make a difference to them to understand how they perceive information and brands and engagement? And what could we do to add value to them through their parents, through their family? And that's what got me thinking about this book. And maybe you should consider your future customer is very young today. And what will you do to create value with that group? So moving on, it talks about peer-to-peer marketing. And definitely this was before Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It talks about peer-to-peer marketing. Next, establish a peer-to-peer program which targets the leaders of the community. Viral marketing. Let tweens take ownership of the brand by building and spreading it themselves. The process of peer-to-peer marketing typically involves the following 10 steps. Number 1, identify a community. Map the behavior of the community. 3, identify alternative distribution channels. 4, identify the leaders of that community. 5, build a peer-to-peer marketing program around the leaders. 6, place tweens in the center, not the brand. I think this is really important. Place tweens in the center, not the brand. Support the community with unique initiatives. Develop a viral marketing tools enabling the tweens to market for you, let the outside world know about the community success, and spread the brand to audiences outside the community. You may need to rewind just to go through. I think that's powerful. It still applies today. 17 years later, viral marketing, 10 really, really good steps. So just going towards the end, I've got one last thing I wanted to share towards the end of the book as a summary, where he talks about the brand war room and building out, your brand to get to the tween market, I should say. He says, we are witnessing a dramatic change in the role of brands. The tween segment is the first generation responding to interactivity, putting any company and brand appealing to this segment to the test. Over the next couple of years, and we're talking now 2004, 2005 is what he's talking about. Over the next couple of years, we will see any serious brand available all day, every day, and through the nighttime hours as well. The key word to survival will be flexibility. So in summary, he says here, don't talk down. Forget the authoritative experts who once persuaded tweens' parents. This group won't believe a word they say. If there's one important lesson to be learned, it's always to stay true to your brand's DNA. Because if you don't, tweens will instantly pick up on their well-honed brand radar. There is no BS generation. Tweens put a premium on straight talk and are drawn to brands which display utter confidence and offer full-on accountability. Any brand that even so much as hints at feelings of self-importance will secure itself as a permanent space in the tween product graveyard. The days of the biggest type ensuring the greatest visibility are long gone. Find your niche. I love that. Find your niche. In fact, there's another book I want to bring out in book videos next week about niching and micro niches, and some people call it niche or micro niche. There's also another video on the platform here where I interviewed Daniel Priestley from Dent, a global growth accelerator company, where he talks about building your niche and building a new market for yourself by really getting into a niche area for your business. So definitely watch that episode with Daniel. But it says here again in 2003, find your niche. One way to understand your brand is to become a niche channel. A bit like our channel here as well on YouTube and LinkedIn and other platforms, focusing very much on family businesses. Invent your own sub-channel. Forget everything about the classic list of media choices. There's potential advertising space where you least expect it. Product placement is the largest and most influential form of endorsement influencing tween brands. What do you think? Does that apply today in 2020? Brands based on historical information are getting large chunks of the market share. Change the operating hours. Tweens will investigate the brand on the channels that are available to them day and night. I think that definitely is relevant today. Tweens are very environmentally focused generation. Tweens are substantially more concerned about privacy than ever before. Involve them in your plans. Their feedback is one of your most important and effective tools. And lastly, marketing campaigns should be milestone based, allowing lots of room for flexibility. I think there's some really great gems in this book. Again, it's 321 pages, packed full of information. Pick it up from Amazon. It's worth rereading. If you've got it in your library, read it again. And it's got some really, really good tips. But I think having 4 children, in our family, our youngest, as I said, today is 18 years of age. He was 1 when this book came out. And I think a lot of those points that I've just covered at the end are highly relevant to knowing his mindset, how he sees the world, how he does things online, and how they're impacted with global brands today. So on that note, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was good to talk about this book. I hope you picked up 1 or 2 things that you could maybe consider when it comes to your business if you are dealing with teenagers, tweens, and if you think about your future customer in the next 10, 17, 20 years, what are you going to do about that today? People keep saying, no, we're not going on TikTok. That's only for young kids. Well, TikTok essentially is the next Instagram. It's grown faster, it's worth more already. So, who knows what's going to come out in the next 5 years? There'll be something else that will be even larger. But I think we do need to embrace some of these new platforms today to tap into that next generation market who will become our future customers. So on that note, thanks for watching and see you all again soon. Bye for now.